Hello, so this week we're doing nudes, and by nudes I mean, you'll be able to see from the product I use, I mean sort of skin tones, very kind of neutral tones that look like they could feasibly be a kind of graduated colour in your skin. Now, I'm a bit funny about nudes in the past. I often don't bother with them. I always think they look so lovely, but I often don't bother with them because it seems like so much effort for a sort of small yield, really. You know, you end up looking sort of a bit nicer for an awful lot of blending and effort. But actually, just recently, I've got really, really into them. There's just something quite nice about them in this little lull between winter and spring, where you kind of want to look sort of clean and fresh and you want your skin to look nice. And that's what nudes is all about, really. It's about making your skin look nice and healthy and glowing. And also there's some really lovely product out at the moment, so I really fancied doing nudes. And funnily enough, when I posted a photograph of myself in nude makeup on Twitter or Facebook or something, of every look I've ever tweeted, it was the one look where I got the most comments saying, oh, I love that look, I love that look, show us how to do it, which kind of took me by surprise, really. It seems to be the thing that people want to get right and maybe aren't sure what to do. So I thought I'd show you that today. I'm going to try and recreate the picture, the makeup look in the picture in the magazine. So I'm going to do exactly what I did on the day of the shoot and talk you through that. And as a rule, like anything, it's not a hard and fast rule, but to give you some guidance, I tend to like Caucasian skin in quite sort of flat, cool nudes like taupe and mushroom and so on. And then I like Afro-Caribbean skin and African skin in kind of maybe slight metallics, coppers, golds, bronzes, those sorts of colours. And then with kind of East Asian complexions and kind of Indian complexions and so on, you're a bit more flexible. You can kind of do both. As a rule, I think white skin looks better in cools and black skin looks better in warms. And then if you're kind of somewhere in the middle, you're a bit more, you have a bit more freedom. So obviously I'm as white as a sheet, so I'm going to show you with cool neutrals, but the technique is basically the same. So you can just use a different colour palette if you're a lot darker than me, but use exactly the same technique. It's really simple. So I'm going to put my hair back and then I'll show you. Okay, so obviously the thing about nudes is primarily you're talking about, the most work is going into your eye makeup. Blusher and lips are pretty straightforward, and obviously I'll show you those at the end. So I'm mainly going to focus on eye makeup. The palette I'm going to use is the palette I used in the photograph, which is this Ultra Nude palette by Bobbi Brown. And it has 6 colours in it, as you can see, some metallic, some matte. They're quite cool, flat sort of nudes, so I think they'll, you know, they suit my skin quite well. You don't necessarily need a palette with 6 colours. I mean, this Space NK palette is even bigger. It's got, I think, 12 colours in it. You know, it's got a vast array of colours. Unless you're really, really, really into makeup, you don't really need one that big. You can easily just pick up one like this, like from Revlon, which is a lot less expensive and just has a few colours in. Or a Chanel palette. They all have 4 colours in, and there's some really great nudes from Chanel. But I'm going to use the Bobbi Brown one because I want you to know how I did the look in the picture. So basically, when you're doing this look, you want 3 colours. You want to choose 3 colours. You want a pale colour, a medium colour, and a dark colour. I find it works best if you have at least one of those colours as a shimmery colour. And at least one with a matte. You don't want all matte or all shimmery, because if you have all shimmery, you don't get the definition in the liner, and if you have all matte, it just kind of looks a bit flat and it doesn't blend as easily. So I'm going to start with a cream ivory base, and just to be completely honest with you, I used this base, but really you just want an ivory base. Ivory works on any skin, and it's good, I think, if the ivory is slightly shimmery, because it gives you a really great base for blending. Now, you can't go wrong here. You are just stroking the ivory base with a big, flat, domed brush. The domed edge is really important, and it's going everywhere, all over your eyelid, right up to the brow. And because it's ivory, you cannot make a mistake. It's completely straightforward, foolproof. I mean, if you were just going out with the kids or for a normal day at the office, you could leave it there and that would be enough. I mean, there are paler colours in the Bobbi Brown palette and in any palette you could use, but I just want to be totally honest with you about what I use for the picture, because I just loved this shadow. It's just sparkly enough. You can also get, obviously, shadows in singles. You don't need a palette. MAC do a number of really good ivory bases. Estee Lauder, Body Shop, those sorts of places. They're very easy to find. So again, everywhere, over your brow bone, because that's where the light will hit it, all the way over the lid. Cannot make a mistake. Okay, so that's your base. Obviously I showed you quite thoroughly there, but if you were doing this on a regular basis, you could do that bit in 20 seconds, seriously. So now I'm going to move on to the Bobbi Brown palette, which is what I use for the photograph. Now I chose, I'm trying to remember, I chose this colour, which is a sort of medium metallic brown, and then I chose this matte kind of flat mushroomy colour as a defining colour. And that's a good rule of thumb, really, to maybe have 2 shimmery colours and 1 matte, or 2 matte and 1 shimmery. So what you want now is your medium colour. It's easy to remember, so you go up in terms of darkness, and you need a smaller brush than before. Again, you want a domed brush, but this is pretty much exactly the same as the previous brush, but it's a lot smaller because we're not taking the colour all over the lid. And I'm taking my medium shade, which is this one. And you want to load up your brush, but you don't want it to be dusty, because then it's just going to fall on your cheeks. So you want to load it up, then tap it off. Some may fall on your cheeks, but because they're nudes, they're quite easy to get rid of. I'll show you that later. So you take your smaller brush, and this time you're only putting the colour on the lower half of your upper eyelid. And you're taking it to just beyond the socket line. Now the socket line is this line here, basically, where your eyeball finishes. And I know from speaking to lots of readers in comments and on Facebook and so on, that they don't have a natural socket line, and they don't know what to do when they get eye makeup instruction, because they don't have that natural line there. It's fine, just pretend you've got one. So imagine one, because the eyeshadow will kind of create one for you. So don't worry if you don't have one naturally. Just decide where you think it would naturally be if you had one, and then take the colour up to that point and just ever so slightly beyond it, because what happens is if you stop at the socket line, when you open your eyes the colour disappears. If you take it just beyond your socket line, you still get a hint of colour popping out. So I'll just show you that again. So you're taking it up to the socket line, slightly beyond, and the joy of having a domed brush like this with a rounded edge is you can really get a nice smooth line, no hard edges, and you can really stroke it like that in a sort of arc. If you can see that they're basically the same colour with different sort of shades of the same basic colour. They're basically the colour of skin. But what you're doing by blending them together is you're creating the illusion of bone structure and tone within your skin. And that's really what you're trying to do with nudes. So I've got my medium colour on, and now this is sort of where it comes to life. We're going to do the dark colour, and I pretty much always choose matte for this because you want it to stay where you put it. So I'm going to use this kind of mushroomy colour, and I'm going to use this brush, which is a sort of smudge brush, but basically you want one with a lot of control, and generally the shorter the bristles, the more control you have. And you want quite a small head because it's going on a small area. You see, it's that lovely sort of flat brown, and again, not a million miles away from skin tone, just darker. So now we're going into the socket line, well, and just above it, and we're creating a sort of arc shape. So the same as we did before, but we're not going any lower with it. So we're not going onto the lid as such. We're just keeping it in this line. And then you don't want to leave it dangling over here, so you want to bring it back round and just darken the corners, just to neaten the shape, so you're getting all that definition. And you're leaving this part as it is, you're just doing the edge. And what that does is it just helps open up your eyes a bit more. I'll do the other eye, then I'll show you how I take the colour underneath. And again, you can see I'm just going slightly above the socket line because we want to see it when our eyes are open. Otherwise you do all that work and nobody sees it unless your eyes are closed. This is exactly what I did for the photo. So if you like the photo, this is how you recreate it. And just take a look at them looking down and just make sure they're relatively even. And again, you're keeping this really pale up here. And if you want a bit more of a contrast, you can do the brow bone again here with some cream if you really want that difference to show up. Adele does this. If you like Adele's eye makeup, this is this sort of shape. And what it does, by putting that ivory up there, it just highlights the brow bone. It's quite a sort of 60s look. Then what you can do is pop some colour under your eyes. Now I always do this. I don't like wearing eyeshadow without colour under the eyes generally. I'll leave under my eyes alone if I'm wearing just say like a black flicky eyeliner. But if I'm wearing shadow on the top, I think it looks a bit funny and bare if you have nothing underneath. So what I do is I take my dark colour again using the same brush just to bring the look around, look up, and just trace it round. Your bottom eye line. And it's hardly anything, it's hardly anything, but it's just enough to kind of bring it all together. And again, because the colours are so soft, really hard to screw up. And when you're kind of confident that they're about the same, you can stop. Now, at this point, you can do one of two things. You can either whack on your mascara top and bottom and you're done, or you can, if you're going out in the evening and you're a bit more dressy, you can put on some eyeliner. I always put on the eyeliner. So I'm going to show you that now. This well-loved eyeliner is by Clinique. I've been using it for years. It's so brilliant. It's called Chocolate Luster. It's perfect with nudes. I'm going to do an eyeliner video really, really, really soon. So for now, I'm just going to whack it on. You take your pencil, start on the outside, and stroke a line. And again, because a chocolate brown is so complementary to nude shades, it's hard to make a massive mistake because it's meant to all look kind of quite blended and flow into each other. It's not like a defined line. So say if you were doing like a flicky eyeliner, say, the whole point of that is this very defined line. But here you're really talking more of a smudgy look, a soft sort of a look, which is brilliant because the softer the look, the more room you have to make mistakes. This pencil's so good because it's a cream pencil, so it's really soft. I apologise if you can hear my dog barking. And if you want, you can smudge that pencil in with the brush you've been using or with a cotton bud or whatever. So, you know, this smudge brush I just used, you could just soften the line and blend it in with that if you wanted, but it's very forgiving. I'm just going to sweep some loose powder across my face just to catch the particles that have fallen down. You can actually do this at the beginning. At the beginning, you can dust powder on under your eye like that and it catches, but generally, powder lifts powder. So if you just sweep some loose powder with a big fluffy brush, it'll take those bits away. Then whack on some mascara. I'm only going to put bottom lash mascara on because I've got extensions in on the top, although as you can see they're pretty much on their last legs. And then for lips, so that's your eye look, and you can sort of do what you want with your brows. Either works, they don't have to be groomed. It depends, you know, how dressy you want the look to be, if it's for day or night. For lips, any regular readers would know that I'm generally a lipstick girl rather than a lip gloss girl. I'm not mad about lip gloss, but lip gloss really, really, really works well with nudes. It's the one time I think it looks really nice. So I tend to pop on a gloss. I can't live without my lip liners though, so I'll do that quickly. You by no means need to wear lip liner. It's your own. But lip gloss then I find just goes really well with this whole colour palette. And go for a nude shade, so caramel or a sort of toffee colour, or a very light sort of buff colour, or like this one is just a sort of blush, which is basically the colour of lips, but just has a really nice light sheen. Then when it comes to putting blusher on, do it last because that's where you can judge. So if you do your eye makeup and your lips, the blusher is meant to take you from lip to eye, so it kind of wants to be somewhere in the middle to balance it out. And again, use a nude blush. This one by Nars is lovely, Luster. It goes really, really well with nudes. This one, Deep Throat, a bit embarrassing to go and buy, but I'm a big fan of that. I wear that a lot. Nars Orgasm, he's got a flair for names. It's also a great one. You can see how well loved that's been. Because I'm wearing this sort of colour on my lips, I like to match blusher with lips rather than eyes. So although this is great, this one Luster, it would work better if you had a kind of toffee or caramel lip. But because I've got a sort of blushy rose lip, I'm going to use something with a bit of pink in it. Again, domed brush, as I've shown you before. Excess off. And that's it. That's a nude look. And it may seem like a bit of a faff, but bear in mind I've really, really shown you quite slowly. You can, as soon as you've got the hang of it, it should really only take about 5 minutes. But it's a really good look for evening. If you want that kind of retro Adele sort of look, you could even replace the chocolate brown eyeliner I used and put a black liquid liner. That's a very sort of 60s girl band type look. And it's just sort of, you know, it's quite smouldering. It's something between a smoky eye and nudes, because all that blending is creating the illusion of bone structure, and it all looks kind of quite soft and misty, and that's the same basis as a smoky eye, but obviously it just looks so much more natural and pretty. So it may seem hard, but I promise it's not. If you have any questions, leave them on the comment section and I'll try to answer them. Thanks very much. Bye.